Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast, the show where we uncover what really creates freedom in life and business, and we'll explore stories of those who've learned how to build wealth with purpose.
Welcome back to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Today, I'm joined by Brent Swatuk, an independent advisor, coach, and strategist who spent decades helping financial professionals not only to grow their practice, but also deepen the relationship that fuels them. Brent, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel.
Great to have you on here. Now, Brent, can you share a little bit more about, a little bit deeper who you are and what's the work that you do these days?
Sure. Well, these days, I'm the regional vice president for Ontario and Atlantic sales for Desjardins Insurance. So I spend most of my days working with my wholesaling team. So I have a wholesaling team of about 13 people. What we do is we go out and we work with advisors all across small Ontario and Atlantic. Then we help them with their clients, making better choices, hopefully making better choices using our product, but, just spend a lot of our time getting to know the advisor practice as well as, what the client's trying to achieve.
Awesome. Now, what did originally drew you into this work?
Oh, like you mean like originally, like origin?
Like originally, yeah. Let's get down to the genesis of how you got into the business.
Okay, yeah. So I was working at a company, and it was really not going to go anywhere. A family member worked there. I was young, and it just wasn't really going to be for me. And I had been passed over for promotion on something, and I just was very frustrated. So my father was in the insurance business, although my father and myself very different. Whereas my focus has been a lot more on high net worth and corporate planning. My father was more of a traditional family market insurance advisor. Nothing wrong with either side. Just, if you know anything about these markets, they're very wildly different. We just kind of think very differently. So I went to his firm. I did the test. Somehow managed to pass the test where they thought I'd be good for the industry. I came in. I'm not gonna lie. I struggled. I struggled because they tried to, teach me the best way they could to be a family market generalist. So spent a bunch of years kind of learning where my fit was in the marketplace, and I got very fortunate to work with a number of great firms and a number of great advisors, and work with a lot of great clients along the way, and kind of weave my way through a few companies, and voila, here we are today. I made that sound very simple, but it definitely was not that simple.
Oh, it sounds like quite an interesting story with working all of the different companies. But listen, what is it that these days is really getting you excited or lighting up? There's so much kind of new information, especially with AI coming in. But is there something either in business or even outside of business and life that's really getting you excited about something that you're working on?
I mean, I'm down a little bit of the AI rabbit hole. I think that, I was asked this week at a conference, do I think that it's, effectively they asked me, what do I see in the next 5 years in our business? And somebody said, oh, AI is going to put us out of business. And I don't think that AI is going to put us out of business. I think like anything, it's a tool. It's an extension of what we do. It allows you to research faster than what we've ever been able to research things. So doing comparisons between companies and products and different things is great, but once again, it's a tool because you have to learn how to ask questions and prompt it correctly. So, which means that first off, you have to know where you want to go. Like, what do you want from it? And then you've got to realize that AI is built in a way to placate you. Like it's there to forge a relationship and keep you asking questions. And so the first thing I would say is, number one, you have to know what you want out of it. Number two, you have to know how to prompt it and ask it questions and challenge what it's producing for you. And then three, you have to be able to review what it puts out and then decipher, is it real or is it not? And I always laugh because there was a lawyer, everybody talks about this case because it's probably one of the most famous ones in recent history, where a lawyer had AI produce its briefs to give to a judge, and it had sourced a bunch of casework case law that wasn't actually case law. It was all fake. So he had his hand slapped. So I think that as we use AI more and more, we need to be able to decipher, if you're Canadian, is this source coming from Canada or is it coming from abroad? And do I trust the source that it's giving me? So I'm excited about AI and what we can do with it, both corporately and personally. I'm excited, there's some really cool things you can do from a planning side of things, like that gives you a great jumping off point that, accelerates and saves you so much time. But I say, like any tool, it's, a hammer's only as good as the person who's swinging it, right? So you really do need to, so yeah, I'm very excited about the AI front. And then other than that, I mean, just lots going on corporately here at Desjardins. So we launched ADOs this year. We got a lot of training that we're creating. We're creating a lot of stuff that I think will be deep impact to advisors to help them move their practices in the directions they want to move them in a very positive manner. So very excited about all the things that we've been working on that side.
Yeah. Well, going back to the AI part of it, yeah, I think it's really exciting, and I think advisors really should embrace it. It's not going away. And my view is, yeah, you know what, you're not going to be replaced by AI, but you may be replaced by advisor that has found how to utilize it and how to really use it and how to become more efficient with it. Because I think that's what it is, as you mentioned. It's a tool. But I also appreciate the point that you brought in, and you will understand this. You remember computers, garbage in, garbage out? We're back to that right now with AI, right? Like, you need to make sure that you actually give it something to work off of. If you just go there and say, if you just go and say basically from the perspective of, listen, provide me with some information and you don't give it context, yeah, it's going to give you garbage, like you kind of mentioned with the with the lawyer, right? So I think at the end of it, it just comes down to you got to give it something to work off of, and then you can go and use it and utilize it, right?
And don't be afraid of it. I mean, like, you've got to go in and test and play with it and see how you would integrate it into your practice. I mean, I flash my phones to you, not because I was showing you I have two phones, but more just to say, to a certain extent, we're all cyborgs. Like, we're like even myself, like earlier today, I was looking for a guy's name and I'm scrolling. I'm like, hold on, I'll go to his website, because I could remember his company name, but I couldn't remember his first name. And I know the guy quite well, but it was like a brain fart moment. And even before the thing opened up, boom, his name popped into my head because it found it. But like, to a certain extent, we're already cyborgs in the way we work, and these tools will just help enhance and better how we do things.
Yeah. Recently, I started using an application called Granola. I mean, it's one that a lot of people, a lot of advisors and everybody are using. If they're on a Zoom meeting, they have the recordings and they've got the, what is it, Otter and Firefly and all of these.
Fathom and all of them, yeah.
And all of those. And I find them a little bit intrusive because, like, I go and have a Zoom and suddenly all these things are showing up and people don't even attend meetings. And I'm like, okay, hold on. No, let's get these things kicked out. But it's actually an application. Again, it's how you use it and how you utilize it. Same thing with ChatGPT. But what I love about this, it actually goes and transcribes everything through the microphone, but it transcribes it, right? So it doesn't record the meeting, it transcribes it, and then I can go and do certain things with it. But I just love it because I can use it I've got it on my phone, I got it on my iPad, I've got it on my computer. So wherever I'm at, I can go and record a meeting if I want it, and then I can actually go and do something with it. And probably, at least in the last 6 months, I have not written an email that I have not used a transcript from somewhere to help me to go and throw it in the ChatGPT and saying, like, hey, you know what, how can we go and say this, or what do I need to go and follow up? Because reviewing stuff, you're at a meeting, and we were just talking about this before, right? You've got meetings back to back. I don't remember what I talked about 3 hours ago. This way, if you've got to record it, you go and put it into ChatGPT, and it can certainly help and catch a lot of informations, right?
I'll tell you, for advisors, one of my favorite tools is this, right? This is the Kindle Scribe. I don't care if you use the Remarkable, but I'll tell you, if you're out drawing corporate structures and you're writing notes and client files and stuff, like, the ability to transcribe that and be able to send that off from email right out of it, I'm like, it seems like it's the most basic of tech, but I'll tell you honestly, if you're sitting in front of clients and you're writing notes and you want to be able to, like, just plug that stuff around very quick, it's invaluable. It's like it's like literally one of my favorite tools that I've bought in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Listen, I'm more of an iPad guy. I tried Remarkable. I did not like it. I just, because I'm used to, I think it's a tool specific, but I was expecting it to do a lot more that it at that time,
Mm,
this was about a year ago, that it could do. And I'm like, you know what?
yeah,
I'm going back to my iPad and
fair.
using that. But you brought a great point. I think often advisors go and show the illustrations and spreadsheets and numbers, and it's like the people are not going to buy from all of that logic that you try to show them, right? If you show them a graph or you draw something or you create it with them when you're like drawing on, if you're using iPad or Remarkable or another tool, it goes a really long way because that's more of the emotional side of things, right? I think a lot of advisors think like, no, no, look, it's the rate of return, it's the numbers, that's what they want. And it's like, well, client might sit there and smile at you and nod their head, but chances are they're confused. They've got no idea what you're talking about because the illustrations, you maybe understand them, but there are a lot more graphs and things like that are more
When
more for the logic, right?
there's so much noise out there, Daniel. You know this. I mean, I was talking yesterday with a young accountant, and we were just kind of laughing. Like, I got a call a week ago that a client wants to talk about doing a dynasty trust. It doesn't
Mm,
exist in Canada. Like, it's a U.S. thing. So
yeah.
I'm like, okay, so I get to explain that to him, right? But there's so much noise out there right now, and it's like we have to have ways to break this stuff, sit down simply for people, and it's like you said, it's a story you tell. It's knowing your craft. I love the scribe just because I like you or I want to sit down and listen to the client and hear what they have going on and understand their corporate structure. Or, usually I deal with a lot of corporations, so I want to understand what's at play and what their accountants are doing before we start advising, right? And there's a difference between pitching and planning, but all these amazing tools that are out here, you take that, you put that to some marketing. I mean, it's amazing what you can do nowadays for.
Yeah. Well, I just came from a trip I was in Colorado. I took my laptop, I took my iPad, and I took my iPhone. I did all of my work from my iPhone. I'm like going, okay, that's it. I'm no longer traveling with my laptop. I couldn't, for whatever reason, connect it to the Wi-Fi, and I was just frustrated. I said, forget it. But pretty well everything I was able to do from my iPhone. And it's like I'm used to sitting in the office, two screens and all of that stuff. And I was actually able to
Yeah.
do a lot of it just from that, my iPhone. I'm like, okay, I've heard actually, I think it was the CEO of NVIDIA. He basically says he runs what it's in NVIDIA is like a couple $1 billion company. He runs his whole business from a phone. And first time I heard it, I'm like, oh no, that's like, how can you go and do that? And you know what? Again, it's just like trying different things. But I was quite surprised at how much we can do just from an iPhone, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, it's a phone. I think we need to remember that first and foremost. I think very few people are just picking up the phone nowadays because they want to send text or send a
Yeah.
voicemail or sorry, send an email. So first and foremost, nothing really beats just picking up the phone and having that conversation. But it's all that functionality that lies underneath, right? Like, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, how many people have digital cameras that they drag around with them these days, right? No, you've got your iPad Pro or your iPhone Pro, and or just the regular iPhone has a great
Yeah.
camera too, and or if you're all my buddies right now are probably melting down if they hear this, like, or your Samsung or whatever your like Android phone is. But pick your poison on what you like. But I mean, we've never been more technologically advanced than what we are right now, and we've survived all these other revolutions or innovations that have come out. In like any tool, we just have to learn how to use it and work with it, and we just can't be scared of it. I mean, I just did a presentation. I was in Bahamas doing a presentation, and I like when I give a presentation. A lot of times, I just like to use pictures. So it's like to me, it's like I always used to go find pictures that were close to what I wanted. But
Yeah.
now with like Copilot and chat and that, like I can prompt it and then re-prompt it. Like I did, like it took me hours to kind of get all the pictures I wanted, but I came up with these images that allowed me to tell these stories about, taxation and what the reality, what you think is going to happen to what the reality is. And then it's just mind blowing that, like I
Yeah.
remember what I used to have to do to put presentations together to get it somewhat the way I wanted it. So
Yeah,
what we can
stock
do now.
pictures are far off from using AI to generate pretty well anything that you want, and the speed that AI is, changing. I mean, I
Mm,
was talking to to an associate this morning and going like, I went and attended, I paid for this training on AI, which was 2 months ago, and they just did another one. And I'm like, there's no point of going back and listening to something from 2 months because it's already outdated. Like that's the crazy part about it, how fast things change. But listen, what do you feel that advisors these days, what are kind of their biggest challenges, aside from like the technology and all that stuff? But what do they mostly like that you're experiencing when you're talking to advisors? What do they struggle with the most?
No, I always think it's pipeline, right? Like pipeline's always like the pipeline and process. Um, like I think that advisors would be very wise to sit down and think of who is their high priority client, like who's their, we'll say ideal client, target market. You could say whatever you like, right? These are all marketing terms. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to say it's like the dentist or anything like that. I work with a guy that calls it the similar seven. Look through your book of business and find the similar client types within your business, right? And then from there, I always say map them out in their starting phase, their growth phase, their mature phase, so you can understand that where they are in each of those phases of their life, and then from there build products, build processes, build offerings for each of those phases, and have a thoughtful framework on how that all comes together from a planning perspective. Because if you meet a client in the startup phase, you're valuable to them if you know what they're going to need in the next phase, if you know what it's going to need to exit their business and what they're going to have prepared in that. And so I look at it like, first, start with your target market. Second, build smart processes around that. So make it seamless and make it seamless, make it work well, that people get what they need from you, and show them the timeline of when your follow-ups are going to be and how you're going to keep them accountable to getting to the promised land of what it is. And then two, figure out how you're going to market that, right? So how are we going to grow and scale within that, and what sort of marketing are we going to need? And by the way, you can use chat for that. So if you take whatever your approach is to people and you run that through chat or Copilot or Gemini or whatever you're using, you can get that down, and you want to get it as simple as possible. Like, talk about the problems you help people fix. People don't care about the products you sell. Like, it's not about the product. It's about the solutions and understanding where their goalposts are, like the dreams, and getting them to those goalposts, right? And keeping them psychologically accountable. So, like, for me, if I was an advisor, target market, process, then market the heck out of it. And I think pipeline is a big problem for a lot of advisors out there right now. They're the best kept secrets in the industry. You and I have joked about this for years. They're not out there to telling people, and there's ways we can build a combination of old school proximity, physical marketing, mixed with new world digital assets that are clear in what we do and how we help people. And I think that if advisors you don't have to do it all, but if you did some of it and people could find you and you're not a digital ghost, you have a higher probability of helping people come into your pipeline and then helping them fulfill their dreams.
Yeah, no, you bring a great point, and I love what you just said, digital ghost. Why do you think, what's holding advisors back from being and doing more of these things, especially now with AI, and we got so much more? And there are some changes. LinkedIn is making some updates where they're looking more for the quality now as opposed to just the quantity of content. But what is it? Do you feel that advisors are being held back? Like, what's kind of holds them back?
It's starting. Like, I think most people don't know where to start, or they feel like they have to be everywhere. Like, sometimes it's in the beginning, I'll go kind of on the lower end side, because I think there's like challenges with different levels of advisors. So if you're a newer advisor, you don't have a lot of capital laying around for you to invest in having somebody manage this. It's like taking on a part-time job, but that part-time job is marketing, right? So like, that's part of your business, and you need to hire yourself to do that. And you need to find the time to do that, because it's kind of like how Buffett says, having stocks is making money while you sleep. Your digital assets are what's making money while you're not working, when you're sleeping in that. So you have to invest in this stuff. I mean, you know it, I know it, and anybody listening knows it. Somebody reaches out to you out of the blue, the first thing you're doing is hitting up LinkedIn, you're hitting up social, you're Googling their name, and you want to find out, okay, like what's the real deal with this individual. And the more you can find online, everything stays consistent, then it starts to build a level of trust. So it's like I'm already starting to formulate a basis of trust because it's very clear and consistent in everything I hit what you do. And then if I can find some stuff like podcasts, whether they're short form or whether they're long form is great though. Don't shy away from long form. Like you can BS short form, like you can BS a 2-minute reel. Very tough to BS a 1 hour podcast, right? Or a 1 hour like a webinar or something like that. People can see through that pretty quickly. So I would just say, you've got to take the time to invest in this stuff, and you've got to set yourself up for success. And you can use AI to help you write this stuff. So if you say, I don't know where to start, and then I think for people that do have more capital, go hire a firm to manage this stuff. At some point, your capital raises up and your time is worth more. So stop doing it yourself and just find someone that can make it clear how they're going to track and measure things. And then you got to give it some time because much like ads and stuff like that, it takes time to get the messaging exactly right. It doesn't catch overnight. When it catches overnight, it's a rarity. This stuff can take 6 months for it to actually start to, for it to start to look like it's even remotely giving you some ROI.
Yeah, I think you bring a great point. There was a study, I think it was Microsoft that did it. I think Dunbar was the research company, called it the 7-11-4. 7 hours of content that you should have, which you just mentioned. People get to know you, get to kind of see who you are before. 11 different touches, which means before they're going to buy from you, right? You will probably have to reach out to them or have 11 times where you actually kind of had some type of a connection. And then you probably should have at least 4 different platforms where you're putting things. But you bring a great point. I often tell advisors, start with one. Like, don't try to start with 5 of them all at once. Focus on one. Once you have that running, then go and branch out. So often advisors are working on 2 or 3 different things, and none of it is really working for them because they're so divided and trying to figure things out.
Yeah, you're 100% accurate on that. I think much like we hear like, wealthy, successful entrepreneurs have 7 streams of income. Yeah, but they started with one, right? Like, so like start with that one, get that content going. By the way, the whole thing behind picking a target market is mostly about attachment, right? Like, so everything we're talking about, all these things create speed to trust, because they can check you out, they can back check you, they can kick the tires with you. And there's so many people that I talk to that do digital marketing, have really good setups, that they're like, oh my God, like this client called and it's like, we're talking like he knows me, but it's the first time I've ever met him, right? Part of the reason why we pick it a target market, and by the way, this will help you too with understanding the sort of content that you need to do, is there's a thing in your brain called the reticular activating system. And so the more that we identify what we're looking for, all of a sudden, the more your brain recognizes. We know this inherently when we buy a car, and we've never seen that color car before we buy it. And then all of a sudden, every third car is that
Everybody's
car.
got it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's the same thing. Like, we start seeing more, like when we get very clear on what we do, who we do it for, what they're about, what kind of problems they have, where they hang out, everything, all of a sudden we start seeing more of them, and then the neurons start firing, and all of a sudden our brain loves patterns and pattern recognition. And so all of a sudden now that's helping us to find out what we want to search. It's helping us to find out what our approach is going to be. So you don't have to have it all figured out right now. What you do have to have is the first step, right? So take that first step. I don't remember who it was, but there was obviously a great philosopher that said a journey of 1,000 miles starts, I think might have been Buddha, starts with this first, the single step. But you've got to take the first step.
Yeah, it's the action. And I think I often see advisors. I just had a meeting with somebody that was preparing for like 2 years with stuff, wasn't sharing with anybody, and send me the information. I'm like, hey, this is all of great stuff, but did you actually put it out there? No, I haven't yet. And I'm like, what are you waiting for? Right? Like, you got to go out there and share the information. And actually, when you implement it is really where the work can go and start. And I like it what you mentioned, building these digital assets. That's what we're, helping individuals do. That's actually one of the reasons why I started this podcast, Make Life Less Taxing, is to help advisors to start that process, for, them to be interviewed, to share about their story, their life, what they're doing, why they're doing it, so that they can potentially go and send it to their prospects or their clients, so that, when that new person meets you, they already feel like they know you, because your job is not to tell them tons of stuff about yourself on that first meeting. Your job on that first meeting is to find tons of stuff about them and how you can potentially help them. So if you already have some of these assets done, it just becomes a lot easier.
70-30, right? You want to
Yeah.
talk 30% of the time and less than 70% of the time to hear what it is they actually want and give them that room to. So when you have those digital assets, you don't have to spend a whole ton of time. There's a lady that spoke at the conference I was at. I don't remember the name of the software, but she has a software that tracks how much in a meeting she's talking. Like, so if she starts to crest above the 30, I don't know whether it starts blinking a light at her, but it does let her know that she's going beyond her, what should be her talk time, because it's time for clients to be heard and not for us to just spew what it is we think they should want from us, but to actually help drill down what they want. So it's
Yeah. Well, this is
neat.
where AI can come in. I know that there are some applications that we were talking about, the note takers and all that stuff, that it can actually do, that it can give you live feedback on what you're doing in AI if you're talking more than you should. My feeling is advisors, it almost should be like 90-10, like only talk 10% of the time. Unfortunately, most advisors, it's the opposite. They talk 90% of the time and don't let that prospect to really express, where they're at and what you really want to do on that. At any of the meeting, you're there to build the relationship. But I think the most important part is that when the prospect or the client walks away, they should be going like, wow, they get me. They actually understand what my problems are. They actually understand what my challenges are. That's when you're going to start building that relationship, as opposed to making it all about, yourself when you're on that meeting.
For sure. I think if Dr. Stephen Covey, who wrote the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, was a financial advisor, his one of his first principles is to seek first to understand and then to be understood. So how to present those solutions, right? Like, I think that I think we have to remember that and learn to ask better questions.
Yeah. So, I know you worked with a lot of advisors. Can you maybe share a story of an advisor that you have worked with who had kind of a major shift in what they were thinking or how they were looking at their business that really changed them and their career?
It's a good question. It's kind of one of those curveballs out of the blue. I will say we did so this might be interesting. It's a marketing example. I mean, I have tons of different examples I could probably lean on, but I was having a drink at a conference with a gentleman in Montreal. We were hosting an event here in the fall called the Growth Lab. And this gentleman, also a Dan, by the way, from out in the East Coast, we were sitting there talking, and we were talking about his business, and he started talking about how he was running these ads. He was doing a funnel. He was working with a professional. He said it was like scary as all heck, right? Because like, he had been doing traditional proximity marketing, referral based marketing his entire career, 20 something years. And he said, I was talking to someone that what they said to me was interesting about digital marketing. I thought it sounded too good to be true. They referred me to the person that they were working with. He decided, you know what? I'm either going to be burning. I think at the time his original in was about 30 grand. I think now he's spending upwards to 70 grand a year in just marketing, which probably seems crazy to a lot of advisors. But hey, when if you had a slot machine that you put $1 into and it always paid you back $2, how many dollars would you feed it, right? And so
As many as I can. Show me that
right.
machine.
So like for him, if he's putting in 70 and he's averaging between 250 and 500 and net revenues on that, like that's pretty good. That's pretty good return on investment. So anyways, we started talking about his funnels, because obviously I'm a marketing guy, so I like to go down that way. And he was telling me what he was doing, and while we were there, he got 3 leads while we were just having this drink and talking about it. He got 3 leads that came into his pipeline, and he said, like, yeah, not every lead's a good lead, right? Some people are just kicking tires in that, but it was kind of showing, and so we had him in Toronto, and he was talking about it, and it's like the one thing that he said was, I only wish I had started sooner, right? And I did point out to him, I go, well, yeah, okay, but let's understand this. You didn't have the process before this. Like
Yeah.
you knew who you wanted to attract, or you knew who you were interested in attracting, but you weren't committed to attracting them because you didn't have the process and you hadn't done the education. So that, another thing I would say to advisors is when you know who your target market is, you'll know what designations make sense, because it's no point
Yeah.
in having a designation that doesn't actually impact, like collecting alphabet soup that doesn't help your clients move their ball forward is
Yeah.
just like, it's good if you're into academia, but like it depends on if that's what you want to do or if you want to help clients move forward and sell things. So I like that story about Dan because there's a guy that had a shift towards marketing, and that worked well. There's a ton of folks I can tell you that I used to build like courses on how to transition your business into the corporate market space, and uh, it was online learning platform with some live, so it was like a hybrid scenario. And we had a number of folks that had never done any work in that space and really didn't know where to start. And we started like right from the beginning. Who do we want to go after? What's the process? What's the marketing? How do they work in different phases? What are the main problems going to be? And the people that did the work, it was it was like amazing, like what ended up happening. The people that didn't, well, they came through another course and did nothing with it.
Yeah. No, you bring a great point. Again, it's that execution and all that, but again, bring it down to the basics, right? I think this is where often advisors don't understand that maybe why something's not working is because they really did not do enough of the research to understand the market, to understand the problems. That's why it's not resonating, when you're doing that. So going back and yeah, getting very clear on who's the market makes marketing and sales that much easier, because if you already know about the conversation that's happening in somebody's head, right? You're already entering that conversation. If you're the one that creating the conversation, they're not going to be ready to move right away because they have to process it if it's something brand new to them. So how do you go and start to instill some of the ideas or principles that you want to go and teach them? That needs to start right from the beginning.
Yeah, I don't have the book within reach, but I really love the book, The Psychology of Money, and I think that there's a psychology for every market that you're going to go into, and I think the more you can understand it, the better it is. And I think I also mentioned earlier startup phase, growth phase, mature phase. So like when I meet someone, I can identify what phase of life they're in, and it's often funny. Like we can talk about the previous phase. Like, hey, did you ever have to pay for something off your personal credit card for the corporation? Hey, did you ever were you one of those guys that slept in the bed? Especially if you go somewhere and they've got like a shower in their like office or something. You're like, how often did you sleep here? Right. And it's funny because it's like those small little things that it's like, they know, and like
Yeah.
you bond faster. Right. And so it's knowing them, like you said. It's like being able to enter that conversation in their mind, because sales is really about getting someone to enroll in a series of products, programs, process that leads to a better future, like the better future that they
Yeah.
want to like. And so like we've got to understand where those goalposts are, like what's that better future look like, and then from there we can reverse engineer that back. And that's really all it is. And if a client doesn't move forward, it's either because they didn't think you really understood them, you didn't connect with them, they don't like you, and that does happen.
Yeah.
Not everybody likes us, or you're proposing something they may want it, but they're not at the phase of their life where their
Yeah.
cash flow dictates they can do it, right? So like you've got to be thoughtful in the way we approach people, and the way we understand them.
Yeah. Well, they might even want it, but they might not fully understand it, what it is that you're saying. Like you might see it like, hey, this is exactly what you need. But if they
Yeah.
don't have that full understanding, and again, we're kind of back to what I think a lot of advisors use spreadsheets and illustrations, and it's like, to you, it might seem like a no-brainer, but for them, they might not have an understanding what you're talking about. Now we're back to, like you mentioned, when you're doing the presentation, using pictures, illustrations, analogies to help them understand, to simplify the language. I work with a lot of advisors that are in the US, and a lot of them, uh, say that, they meet a lot of people that don't like annuities. But when they sit down with the person and they tell them, hey, do you like Social Security? You like what it does? Yeah. Well, guess what? It's an annuity. Oh, so the same thing here in Canada. It's like people just don't understand. They're being told that, hey, these things are no good. But once they actually understand the principle or what's behind it and how it operates, that opens up another world of a deeper understanding. And I think that's what, as you know, anybody as an advisor needs to focus on that first before they go into any deep strategies.
Yeah, and it's like, do you remember lottery? I don't know if you buy lottery, and if you're in the US, you probably don't have this, but in Canada, they have a scratch thing called Cash for Life, right?
Yeah.
And really think about it. It's like, we're going to give you this much per week over this much time. Really, what you have is you have a pot of money. Like, we could have said, hey, you could win $1 million on this scratch. Instead, what we're saying is we're going to give you $2,000 a week for the rest of your life, or $1,000 a week for the rest of your life. Like, so it's really an annuity, right? Like,
Yeah.
is all it is. So it's all in the way it's
Yeah.
all in the way you frame things. I think it's the expert dilemma, Daniel. Like, we know things at an expert level, which is a level 10. And then we go to places and they're like, hey, you need to dumb it down, right? You need to make it simple. So what we do is we take it from a 10 down to a 7, right? And we're like, well, yeah, like, we dumbed it down,
How
right?
much
But
simpler can I make it, right? I already made it so simple, but
the,
it's still
the
at 7, not at like 4 or 2
well,
where
3,
somebody can
right? Like
understand it.
like the average client that's not an expert, they're buying level 3, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, how do we bring it down? Because any fool can know, but any fool can know, but the point is to understand, right? Like, how do we get people to the point of understanding uh, what what it is we do and what it is they're putting in place, right? So I think that we've got to really bring it down to that level 3. We've got to really make it so simple that it's like, we understand where your goal is. Here's what this does. Boom. This,
Yeah.
this insurance backfills your estate. It's the place where we're stashing cash, whatever it is, right? Like, you become sick, this pays out.
Yeah, I think it's all about using really common expressions, and as you just mentioned, like a simple explanation of what it actually does. And I think from that perspective, when we're talking about what are the shifts, I think that's what advisors need to understand. They're living, eating, breathing this stuff all the time because they're in the industry. Most people, they don't have time to think about it. They're so busy with their life and everything's going on. So having the ability to present it to them in a simple manner goes really a long way instead of showing them spreadsheets and illustrations and all these things, right?
And however they want it. Like, if they want
Yeah,
it in a 30-second reel on Instagram or something, I think 30 seconds is probably a
yeah,
little too short, but if they wanted a very short reel, they want an idea in a really short reel,
yeah,
like, give them that, right? Give
yeah,
them that, because they'll make the decision in their head. And I think your point is bang on, because if you think back to the pandemic, like, all of a sudden people had time and things got slow, and more insurance got sold during the pandemic than what anybody would have predicted. So I think you're right. We need to break through that noise. We need to filter through that noise, and the way we do that is by being inside their heads, and the way we do that is by understanding who we want to approach.
yeah. No, no, you bring out a great point. So do you see that? And listen, both you and I have been in business for quite some time. Let's not get into how many years, but uh, do you think that advisors are getting better at this stuff that we're talking about, or is it about the same, or is it maybe worse? What is your assessment?
I think there's always a cream of the crop. Like, I think that the issue we have is the industry is aging.
Hmm.
There's less and less career companies, even though I will say, like, I came in through a career company, and um, they're much like school.
Yeah,
Like, so they're good if you fit the model that they want you to fit in, but if you don't fit in that model, then like, and I didn't fit in that model, like, they're very limited in how they can help you move forward, right? And I think right now the industry is being dominated by MLMs with scalable systems, right?
yeah,
Like, not people that are independently doing planning, but people that are following a mass marketed scaled system. Um, so I think it's getting tougher for people to latch onto these things, and I think there's resources out there, but I don't think this stuff's being taught enough. It's not being taught enough. There's not enough people out there beating the drum, and we have a real problem in the financial services industry, and that
mm,
we need more people getting into this business. Like, we need more people making the referral to their nephews and nieces and sons and daughters. Like, I've got one that's an underwriter and one I'm trying to drag into the actual advisory business. Because there's such an opportunity here, and it's such a rewarding career to be able to help someone secure their family's future.
No, 100%. I mean, listen, on these podcasts, I'm talking to different advisors. I just before this, just talking to advisor going to do a podcast with him. He's like 24 years old, and let me tell you, he's got it all figured out because he did started working with a career, and then it was like he looked at on the inside, it rose up fairly fast, and he looked behind the closed doors and was like, hold on, no, I don't agree with this. I don't want to build my business this way. I'm out. So he went independent. But he had a lot of guides. He had a lot of people that basically helped him to get there, right? I think, and I'm thinking this is the great thing for a lot of the younger generation. Hopefully they kind of figured out. You don't have to figure this out on your own. Like success leaves clues. Like go and talk to somebody that already has it. I think this is the one thing that I say the unfortunate thing about education that it told us that we have to go and figure out everything on our own because it taught us, hey, and I'm just going to say this, I don't agree with cheating, but like copying somebody else's stuff when you're an entrepreneur just means that you can get to whatever you're building faster. Like you're not copying, you're just kind of learning from it. And again, success breeds success. Unfortunately, we're in school, we're told if you copy somebody else's paper, you know what, you're cheating, right? So, you know, kind of steal like an artist. I don't know if you read that book. I didn't read the whole thing, but the whole premise of it is, you know, if you copy one guy, yeah, that's cheating. But hey, if you copy 10 guys' stuff, now you're doing research, you're okay, right? So,
I know. I never read the book, but I know the saying, right?
yeah.
I agree. I mean, once again, I mean, you can accelerate, by looking at what other folks are doing successfully. You can accelerate by using the chats. You can accelerate, like there's so much that's there. And I mean, then in the beginning, you can start doing this yourself, but eventually you want to hire a professional
No.
because it's brain capacity. You want to be looking at what's my highest priority, like output of my time, right? And if it's sitting in front of clients, then man, stop doing all the stuff
No.
that doesn't allow you to do that, right? And so there was at a conference earlier this year, a guy named John Nicola spoke. He's from BC, Canada. He's an absolute pioneer, amazing mind. And what he said was advisors are really good at building practices, but very poor at building enterprises. And what he's done very well is build, like he had a mind very early. I found it very intriguing to build enterprises. So what he's done is he's built a model where advisors come in and they occupy one of three spots, right? It's you're either a finder, meaning that you go out there and you find clients because that's what your highest, that's what your unique ability is, to quote Dan Sullivan. You're a grinder, so you're somebody that does the actual like planning work because you really like to do that, or you're a minder, you're somebody that actually like services the clients and make sure that they follow through on all the things and they get all the service stuff that they're going to need. And all three are very important to a firm. But finders, grinders, minders, and you can like really scale a business. And I think that it does speak to process, because a finder has, so first off, for an advisor, there's a psychological leap that you have to make, that you're leaping over your ego effectively, that nobody can do the grinding as good as you. But once you've documented all that process, by the way, great book for any advisor, E-Myth Revisited, Michael Gerber talks a lot about being a visionary and process and creating process to things so you can continue to grow and scale your business. But if I can trust that the process will be done in a certain way, then I can go out and meet more people and I can bring them more into the fold in that. And if you take a look, I don't remember whose podcast it was. I want to say, I don't remember whose podcast, so I won't say what podcast I think it was. But I had a guy named Michael Kitces out of New York on there, and this was back around 2019, 2020. It was right around the start of the pandemic. And he had mentioned that they were going to do about 100 million of new assets under administration in that year. And I'm like, I had to rewind it because I thought like it was wrong. Because in Canada, if you do 100 million in your lifetime, you're pretty much a stud. So to hear somebody say, we're going to do 100 million, our firm's going to do 100 million in assets under administration this year, I was like, oh my gosh. And then I realized they employ the same mindset as what Nicole was talking about, of finders, grinders, and minders. And, sort of advisors, like looking at your process, looking at what it is that you do, and delivering it with excellence and consistency and creating a good client experience, man, like sky's the limit.
Yeah, no, this is truly a great business to be in. Again, it's just unfortunately what I've experienced with a lot of advisors, and I did it unfortunately myself too, is like we find ourselves the loners. We're kind of like lone wolves, and we need to go and figure out on our own. And again, this is the reason why we kind of created the podcast, the Institute of Untaxable Wealth. Hey, just go and have advisors. One of the coaches that I work with, he taught me this, and I use it all the time. You know what, Daniel? 50% of a watermelon is always more than 100% of a grape.
Right.
And unfortunately, I see a lot of advisors that've got their little grape over here, and they're like, "Don't look at it, it's mine," and they're hiding it. And it's like, man, no, like whatever you have is not that unique. Other people can do the same thing, And like I think it was you that were talking about where else can you have a business where you've got millions of dollars worth of product that you can go and grab the shelf and go and deliver it with like zero cost for it, right? Only like your time and effort and whatever, there is obviously investment if you do ads and all of that stuff. But like you don't have to pay for the inventory to sit in a warehouse. Like it's sitting on your shelf and it's literally like, what are we talking about? Millions. It could be billions of dollars if you can get to that level, right?
Yeah,
So
I agree. I mean, take a look right now. I mean, we're when we're recording, it's November, like we're close to December. Um, you know, the car dealers right now are freaking out because they know what inventory's on their lot and they know what they're financing that at, right? So it's not like an insurance advisor has to sit at the end of the year with an insurance company and say, next year I'd like you to set aside $100 million of risk for me to move, and what's my carrying cost going to be on that?
no.
If we did that, what would your urgency be to move that $100 million?
I just thought about
Instead,
that. Maybe we should do that. You know what? That's
yeah,
not a bad idea. Having that, like, hey, listen, you know
listen,
what? There's going to be a penalty if you
as
still have it sitting
as
on your shelf.
insurers, we would love that. Don't get me wrong, but like instead, we've got unlimited resource in our warehouse,
No.
right, sitting there on consignment, waiting for you to move it, right? Like you can move as much as you want of it. And the problem is that doesn't create an urgency. So it's like, you have the ability at any given moment to write 100 million over how many cases that would take you. But we lack that urgency because you're not paying a carrying cost for it. And if you paid a carrying cost for it, you'd market, your business would run so much more like a business. Like, and it's not to, I mean, that's not to be a slight to anybody that does run their business like a business.
No.
You got a business plan, you got a marketing plan, you got a marketing budget, all that's, don't take offense to this, but 90 something percent, I don't know what it is, but it's going to be a very big percentage, don't have a business plan.
No.
Like,
So
like,
I call most financial advisors, I call them accidental business owners because of what you're just mentioning. There is no planning. They're just kind of flying by the seat of the pants. They're just like, hey, how do I make the most amount of commission? And it's like, hold on. No, you got to start thinking about like a business owner. I think this is what you're mentioning. Like, hey, you know what? Are you an enterprise, right? That's when you start being a business. Because when you look at what's the definition of a business, it's an enterprise that can run without the owner, right? And most financial advisors, they really just have a glorified job and they call themselves a business owner, right?
like I said, I was speaking in another. I was speaking in Ottawa earlier this week, and we were speaking on. I was speaking on almost the exact same topic we're talking now, but there was a gentleman that spoke before me, and he started out his talk talking about the dream. Like he had a dream of how his business would run one day, and then he said he just came back off a month-long vacation where he didn't bring his business phone, but they had the biggest month of investments of insurance that his business has ever had. Like that's a pretty sweet deal, and it's the thought of someone setting up processes. Now he uses the EOS process. I don't care what people use, and he said I don't care what you use, there's different
No,
processes. But like, I mean, I think the biggest thing is like, know whether you're building a practice or an enterprise. And for him, he's building an enterprise, and he can go take a month's vacation and not bring his business phone with him, and still come back, and the wheels haven't fallen off, so to speak.
yeah. No, that's great. Listen, we got to close this off. I've got actually another podcast that I'm recording in a few minutes. So, listen, thank you so much for sharing. And I feel like we just got into it. Maybe we should do another one sometime. Listen, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'd say hit me up on LinkedIn, right? Brent Swatuk, Swatuk. You see it down in the corner there. I have no idea why I spelled that, but anyways, yeah, LinkedIn's always a great place to start, and
No.
then we can launch out from there. But I always say that's probably the most fantastic place to start.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Listen, if you're listening to this and you want to get a hold of Brent, yeah, reach him out to on LinkedIn. Check out what he's doing on there. And again, thank you for your time and your message. And remember, making life less taxing isn't just about money. It's about freedom, clarity, and purpose. Keep building wealth, keep protecting your legacy, and keep living the untaxable lifestyle. We'll see you next time on Make Life Less Taxing. Listen, Brent, appreciate your time and looking forward to, I think we might do another one again.
Sounds good, man. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Be sure to check out our other top advisor interviews at makelifilesstaxingpodcast.com.